Welcome in, everybody, to another podcast. Judi, tell us what we're talking about today.
So today we're going to have a great show. We're going to talk all about why your pharmacist is a key and instrumental part of you aging well.
Sounds good. We'll be right back.
Welcome to the Cogni-Thrive podcast, where we help you understand the signs of early cognitive decline and the many ways available to keep your brain healthy. Judi Pritchard is a certified cognitive coach with more than 30 years of experience, and her company, Cogni-Thrive, provides comprehensive tools to support cognitive resilience as you age. Join Judi and her husband Philip as they continue to spread the message that dementia is not definite.
All right, welcome back in, everybody. Judi, tell us who we have in studio today, a special guest.
Absolutely. Everyone, I want to introduce you to Anna Wertheim. She is the managing pharmacist here at Brookler Pharmacy in Alabaster. Welcome, Anna. We're so excited you're here.
Thank you so much for asking me.
You're a brave soul for joining this little thing we've got going here.
It is fantastic. It's wonderful.
Anna's getting broken into the real world of podcasting.
Yes.
So thank you for coming.
You're welcome. You're welcome. It's my pleasure.
So today what we want to talk about a little bit is when people are especially initially concerned that they might be having some changes happening in their brain, how to get started on their process of discovery and figuring out exactly what that is. And one of the things that plays a big role is the current medications that they're taking, even supplements. And so I always ask my clients, one of the first things to do is go to their local pharmacist and talk to them about reviewing everything that they're taking, whether it's supplements or whether it's prescriptions, and just see, are there any medications that could be causing any kind of problems with cognition or memory or alertness? And is this something that you regularly do?
Sure. We are always happy to see people coming in of all ages. If people don't get all of their medications from one pharmacy, we sometimes have that issue. We have different doctors prescribing for people, and they may not all be on the same page. So I've been doing this for 32 years. So when I think back to my early years of even pre-pharmacy school training in the 80s, when I worked for a very small hometown pharmacy in Oneonta, Alabama, we would do what they call brown bag day, where seniors would literally load up all of their prescription bottles into a brown bag, bring them to a table in the pharmacy, and the pharmacist would sit there one-on-one and review all of those medications with them. And that is a little bit of a practice that has gone by the wayside.
Yeah, I was just thinking that would be fantastic if we did that again.
It was literally called Brown Bag Day.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, and understandably so. Why?
But I
bet you saw all kinds of things.
Oh, yes. A lot of times more than we needed to see. But it was such a great practice. And in the busy world of retail pharmacy life, sometimes it's, hard for us to take the time. But if somebody ever wants to come in, we're happy to sit down with them and look at their list of medications, see what they're on, how long they've been on them. There are a lot of factors that go into how their body changes as they age. A medicine may act a certain way in someone's 50s and 60s, but when they're in their 70s and 80s, it's a different story. They may need to look at decreasing the strength of the medication based on whether their body is metabolizing.
Oh, wow. You know what, that's really interesting. There's so much more to a medication review than what I've even considered.
Oftentimes, the standard, once you look over a medication, you want to make sure you are only taking, let's say, one gastro medication. A lot of people hear the term PPIs for a medication that people take for their GI distress. Mm-hmm. So you would look for multiple medications that may be doing the same thing. I mean, would be the most obvious. And then you're going to look for drug interactions. And then you're going to look for which of these medications could be causing excessive drowsiness, or a lot of our seniors have trouble sleeping. Well, they may be taking something earlier in the day that may be keeping them awake at night. So,
good point.
we find a lot of times people will go to the doctor and have a complaint that truly, if you looked hard enough, it might just be a side effect of a different medication that they're taking. So you have medications being added on a daily, weekly, monthly basis that just adds up over time, when maybe if we just changed medication number one, that problem might go away.
Oh, yeah, that's a great point. And that's when I talk to my clients about it, I want them to have that conversation to look for anything that might have a side effect that's related to alertness or memory or cognition in general. But all the things you're listing are so many more aspects that I don't even think about on a regular basis. So are there medications that at a certain point, maybe we don't need any longer as long as we're aging?
Definitely.
Really?
Definitely. There are a few categories of medications that we would want to look at and speak to the physician about. But also, as we age and our metabolism changes, certain medications build up in the body. So if you're talking about one of those that does affect alertness or memory or cognition, that is going to be a more profound side effect of that medication, because it's staying in the body longer and not being excreted like it used to.
Wow, interesting. So, and I'm just going to add a little PSA side note here for everyone. So when, don't stop medications, just from this podcast, don't stop medications. Even once you talk to your pharmacist, we don't want you to go and just automatically stop them. We want you to involve your physician.
Absolutely, absolutely.
So just to get that commercial out of the
Yeah.
way, make sure
Yeah.
everyone understands that. But
and if we were to be having that conversation, we would definitely say, why don't we talk to the physician?
absolutely, and that's usually what I instruct them to, is like, not that I want you to stop anything right away, but what are some of the common classes of medications that may have a side effect that is cognitively related?
One of the medications that in this day and age is growing is the anti-anxiety. There's a huge class of medications called benzodiazepines, and they often have great benefit, but they do have a lot of difficult side effects, and for the elderly can cause drowsiness, stumbling, falls. We have to watch out for, and that is one of the main medications that we are watching for for problems down the road.
And I know when it comes down to it, there are times where you have to figure out what's the benefit, what's the pros and cons, basically, of the medication, if there's not an alternative. But in a lot of cases, there are alternatives, aren't there?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. In this day and age especially, people like to give Big Pharma a hard time, a lot of times because of cost of medications, but there's a lot of research and a lot of new medications that are working well and don't have all the same problems associated with them.
That's the exciting thing, because I think a lot of times we, just like anything else, you get into just automatically using something you're accustomed to or used to when you don't necessarily know all the newest and latest things that are coming out. But pharmacists typically do. They know when new medications are coming out.
Typically, and we can try to make
Great.
those suggestions.
That's great. Again, to take back to their physician and see if that's something they could try out.
Exactly.
Yeah, and we even recently did this with Phil with some of the medication he was on, because it was a, what was the medication? Or what was it? It was for reflux?
For reflux.
Yeah. And we were able to switch him out to something different because long-term use of it had a cognitive side effect. And the physician was great to work with us on it. So that wasn't a problem at all. But that's even to say, even if you're not having any cognitive issues, you should do this on a regular basis, shouldn't you?
Absolutely. Review all of your medications with your pharmacist, with your physician. And one of the other issues that we run into sometimes is we will get a phone call from the ER or from a facility where somebody has had to go and they don't know their medications. So what we've been trying to suggest recently is to make sure you have all of your medications written on, let's say, an index card and put in your wallet and keep with you at all times.
That's a great idea.
Not to be negative Nelly, and
I have a picture of all mine. I literally this week I had to go with a follow-up visit to my cardiologist, and they're like, "We need your meds." So I lined them all up, took a picture. I said, because I don't want to write it wrong.
right.
Yeah. Technology's there.
But if you can't speak for yourself, who is?
That's right.
Does everybody have your phone code, Phil?
Yeah. No.
Okay.
And what is that?
I'd be like, honey, you're going to have to, I wouldn't tell her anything, so I'd be just laying there, right?
But that's a really good point.
It is.
Yeah. I do remember going through that with my parents, but because we always had their list, and I just knew it was always in my wallet, and so I do get that a lot. So
Yeah.
great idea.
Super important.
Definitely. And then do they, what's the best way to get in contact with, like, do pharmacists typically have, you schedule an appointment to have this done, or how does that usually work? If someone wanted to come, do they just come in the door and say, hey, do you have time to do this?
So a lot of ways that could happen. For us, we are very fortunate to be an independently owned pharmacy, and we do have a lot of flexibility when we do have overlap of pharmacists, but it is always great to make an appointment. And then that way we can arrange our day around that so that we have plenty of time. We have a table downstairs that we try to use for those times and functions. So, yeah.
Is
Great.
that something where someone could send you their list ahead of time and say, hey, here's what I'm on. Can you just look at it? And then when they come in, you're kind of ready to go? Or
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So what if they use different pharmacists, different pharmacies?
Well, polypharmacy is a major issue that we have studied for 15 to 20 or more years, probably. More an issue now because there are days when your given pharmacy may not be open. Some of the bigger chains have longer hours, and people have to use different pharmacies. But we encourage people to use the same pharmacy if at all possible.
Right.
And then if you do have to go to another pharmacy for one or two prescriptions for whatever reason, sometimes insurance companies have better benefit at different pharmacies. So we do try to encourage people to let us know what other medications they might be on.
So there's not like a all-encompassing something on the cloud where pharmacists can tap into all the medications they're on, nothing like that?
No.
Okay.
You should create that.
Not with pharmacies data. That is my thing.
So that's one thing for people to keep in mind, especially if you are, if you're a child, an adult child, and your parents are aging, and you may want to have some conversations with them initially around, let's just make sure we're on the same page and we know where your list of medications is. Heaven forbid if something happened, I know where to get it, so we make sure no whoopses happen. If you do have to go into the hospital or whatever, we have your list ready.
Absolutely. Absolutely. We do get calls all the time from emergency rooms where somebody presents and they don't remember their medications, or they can't speak for themselves, and the family member doesn't know. They call and ask for a med list to be faxed over. Mm-hmm. So that happens quite frequently, honestly.
Which is okay if they only use one pharmacy. But
Correct.
If they use multiples and the kids don't know or the ER doesn't know, that could be problematic.
It could be. It could be.
Wow. Yeah, that's something to think about.
We've even considered making a wallet pre-form of some sort, which
That's a great idea.
would probably be good.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
But it's still going to come down to the user actually filling it out, and
Correct.
Yeah.
You're right.
you're only as good as the user.
So I appreciate you bringing pharmacy awareness to the table.
I know. I'm excited. I am really excited. And we're going to have you back because I have several other topics that I want to discuss with you. But before we do, we talked a little bit about some of the classes of medications that could lead to cognitive. Let's talk about sleep medications. So that's probably the number one thing that I see on my client list are some sleep medications, as well as when I'm doing speaking events that I get asked about sleep medications. Mm-hmm. Sleep is a primary topic of discussion, and we know it's critically important for brain health. We know it's critically important for fighting against plaque that may be growing. But at the same time, I'm concerned a little bit about people that want to look for a quick answer, which may be medications.
Correct.
Because I know a lot of the sleep medications, especially the older ones that are so still seem to be popular and getting prescribed, have cognitive side effects.
Sure. It is such a difficult subject to address with patients. And so in your profession, do they, around this topic, do they talk about the term sleep hygiene?
We do.
Okay.
Yes, we talk about that a lot.
Okay.
Yes.
Because that has been a huge topic for pharmacists continuing education, for us to try to convey to patients as well. Let's have good habits around the bedtime routine to help that, so that you don't have to take the medication, because they are full of side effects that are very disconcerting. And even for people who aren't elderly or are not suffering with cognitive decline, a lot of them are dangerous, to be honest.
No, I completely agree with you. But there are new sleep medications coming out, aren't there, that don't have as many cognitive side effects? Have you heard of any of those?
I haven't heard of any new ones recently, but it doesn't mean they're not right around the corner.
Right.
Like I said, because research is progressing, and hopefully we'll have some.
And if anybody out there is listening and you know of one, let us know, because we definitely will research it for sure, because we need to find something. And if you work in the pharma world, please create us a sleep medication that does not have a cognitive side effect.
Yeah.
That's critically important. Let's talk about supplements. Along the lines of sleep, melatonin. What are your thoughts around melatonin?
I think it is a natural replacement and is good to a certain extent. A lot of times, though, people build up a little bit of a tolerance to it, from my experience, and just have to keep taking more and more, and then feel like it doesn't work within a year.
Interesting.
That's a very good point, too.
I've read that it's good for intermittent short-term use.
That makes perfect sense.
If you're going on a trip, let's use it for a week until you get into a better routine. Stop, have it there, but try not to take it every day.
That's a great point. I have a client recently that has had a little bit more challenges than normal with short-term memory, and they use melatonin in the evening, just the regular melatonin, but then if they wake up in the middle of the night, they take a slow-release melatonin to try and get back to sleep. And I'm worried a little bit. I'm wanting, in fact, we've talked about this. She's going to start tracking it for me to see if that could be causing a lingering effect, because some medications will do that depending on what time you take it, right? They may not come out of your body and your system as quickly in the morning, so you may feel more groggy. Does that happen?
Yes. And I would suggest, if we were having that conversation, the possibility of flip-flopping that. Take the extended release before bed, and then if you wake up during the night, then take the immediate release at that point, and then probably would not be so groggy the next day.
Oh, that's a great idea. See?
You're a genius.
There's just so many reasons why you need to join us on a regular basis.
You're so funny. Genius. Can I tuck that one away for future use?
Absolutely.
Look, we put it here and we're putting it out there in the world, in podcast world.
That's hysterical. That's hysterical.
What other supplements should people be aware of, or any kind of interactions? Do supplements cause interactions with prescription meds?
They absolutely can.
Really?
And we just need to review them on a one-on-one basis.
Oh, that's great. That's a great point.
Yeah.
So when they're bringing you the list of prescriptions they have, they should also include all the supplements.
100%.
Excellent.
100%. Some people don't realize that in the vitamin world, there are 4 that are not water soluble, and you can accumulate too much.
Oh.
Vitamins D, E, A, and K are ones that we always want to look out for, that you can get too much, and sometimes people suffer from too much vitamin D. The majority of Americans don't have enough, so
Right.
I don't want to scare anybody
Sure.
by that comment.
Sure.
But it is important to realize that the over-the-counter, let's say 5,000 unit capsule a day, for most people would wind up being too much.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. So anyway, just
I remember when COVID was rampant. I was taking vitamin D and all these things, and did some research because I was having just dull headaches all the time. And I started researching it, and I kind of weaned it down to it was probably too much vitamin D.
Absolutely.
And so I haven't taken it since, but I was like, okay. But
So
that's very good information.
Until you experience it,
Yeah.
you don't think too much about it.
Right.
Yeah. Well, and that's one thing that another thing we do with our clients is I ask them to get their labs. And before they start taking a lot of any kind of extra supplements, and a lot of times people will hear out there that different additives or supplements help with brain health. And or they'll hear something around magnesium or zinc, and not saying that any of those are bad, but you don't want to overdo it. And so I ask them first, get your levels first, so we see, are you low in those? Because if you're not, taking too much may have counterintuitive effects for you.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And a lot of those, the magnesium, the potassium, a lot of times, depending on if you're a cardiac patient or not, we have to be very careful with.
Excellent point. Excellent point.
Yeah.
Great. Okay. Anything else you'd like to add in?
So wait, before we start wrapping up, I got to get back to this sleep hygiene thing. So does this mean I've got to brush my teeth every single night?
Oh, Lord.
I mean, no, I'm being serious. I mean, I know you should brush your teeth every night. Tell me what you're talking about, like no phone for a certain amount of time.
Correct.
Talk a little bit about that.
Sleep hygiene involves several different activities around bedtime. You don't want to have a lot of screen activity right before you go to sleep. And I have not done that continuing education in a while, so I would really have to think about it. I mean, no caffeine past a certain time of day, and you have to learn your body and know how much you can tolerate and how much you can't. I mean, I could probably drink a cup of caffeinated coffee and still go to sleep. So
Same here. Yeah.
it just depends on you.
Yeah.
But if you're having trouble sleeping, things like screen time right before bed, you never want to carry an iPad or a telephone to bed with you.
Right.
And yes, brush your teeth before bed.
But I know from things that we cover usually is alcohol can interrupt your sleep, heavy meals later at night, sugar later at night, and caffeine,
Right.
like you say.
Yeah.
Definitely the screen time. Exercising in the evening also will pump you up and give you a lot of energy, so may disrupt your sleep pattern. And sometimes what I find too is that people feel like they need more sleep than what they necessarily do. So if they may be getting 7 hours of sleep, but feel like they need to have 9 or 10 just because they've heard that that's what you should have.
Right.
And really, they may only need 7 or 8. So sometimes it's just an awareness of how well you are sleeping.
Right.
And are you getting interrupted, or are you sleeping? Is your dog sleeping with you and waking you up 3 times a night?
Right,
Those
right.
kind of things.
Exactly.
Absolutely. Well, good.
Cool.
Anything else?
I don't think so. Anna, thank you so much for joining
Oh,
us.
of
And we are
course.
definitely going to have you back if you will come back.
Absolutely. This is fun. It's great to
Excellent.
learn.
Thank
And
you.
yes, any awareness that we can help with as far as prescriptions and the pharmacy world and the difficulties of things like different pharmacies being used, different doctors, and not everybody being on the same page are so important. So thank you for bringing awareness to it.
Absolutely. Well, so you'll come back again?
Absolutely.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Anna.
You're so welcome. Thank you both.
All right, guys, thanks for tuning in. Be sure to subscribe to our podcast, watch us on YouTube, listen on all your favorite podcast platforms. If you need Judi to speak to your group, she's there. Anna will probably come speak to your group too, right?
Absolutely.
Would love to do that.
And hey, I think the most important message from today's podcast is you still have to be proactive. You have to take
100%.
control of what's going on with your meds and with your doctors, because nobody can read your mind. So tune in for the next one. Thanks, guys.
Thanks,
Thank
everyone.
you. Sounds great.
Thank you for listening, and remember, we are not physicians, and you should always consult your doctor about what treatment is best for you. Please visit www.cogni-thrive.com to learn more about our services or to book Judi to speak at your next event.